Welcome to another edition in our CSEC exam past paper questions and solutions, and this question was taken from the May 2011 paper, and it's question 3 part A, and this is a general sets algebra question. Now let's just get into it quickly. The Venn diagram below shows the number of students who study music and art in a class of 35 students. Now what they're saying here, U, which is the universal set, which is denoted here, U stands for the universal set, that's the rectangular shape, represents the students in the class. So the total number of students in the class is in the universal set. Now M is equal to the students who study music, and A represents the student who studied art. Okay, now here they have given us the Venn diagram drawn, and if we notice in the set M we would have x plus 5, and here obviously we would have an intersection between the students who studied music and the students who studied art. Okay, so what the intersection is really saying is that there are 8 students in that class of 35 who studied both music and art. Okay, over here we have X students who studied art, and we have 4 outside. When a number is placed outside of the subsets, it's in the Venn diagram, it's in the universal set on the Venn diagram, but it's not in one of the subsets. It simply means then that these 4 students didn't study music or art, okay, or anything that it's representing here. Now quickly let's get into the questions. Number 1, they're asking us how many students study neither art nor music, and in the exam this question values 1 mark. Okay, so it's pretty easy. Let's get into it. Let me pull this up a bit. We are going to need a little bit more space to work with. Okay, so let's stop right there. Now for question 1. So let's say question 1, part 1. They're asking us how many students studied neither art nor music. Well, if you notice, we have a 4 outside music, the set music, and the set art. So obviously this 4 that we have outside here, let me use a brighter color. Let me use a black. This 4 that I'm circling in black here, this 4 there, represents the students, the number of students who studied neither music nor art, because it is outside of those 2 sets. Okay, so therefore for part 1 we can say 4 students. Oops, let me change the color quickly. We can say 4 students studied neither music nor art. Okay, you just pick that up on the outside. Now quickly let's shift up a bit so that we can get a little bit more space to work these questions. Now they're asking us to calculate the value of x, and to calculate the value of x, this is typically 3 marks. This part typically values 3 marks. So it's pretty easy. Looking at it, we have x plus 5. So x plus 5 would be the number of persons who studied music, plus we have our intersection, and then we have the number of students who studied art, and the 4 who didn't study anything. So we can say for part 2, this is part 2 we're answering now, we can say x plus 5, okay, plus 8 plus x. Okay, we're just adding up all the expressions that represents the total number of students in the class, or we can say plus 4 is equal to this expression represents the total number of students in the class. And if we should remember clearly, and let's scroll up a bit, if we should remember clearly, the total number of students in the class, they gave it to us here, and it was 35 students. Okay, so simply what I'm gonna say here is that x plus 5 plus 8 plus x plus 4 must be equal to 35. Oops, let me change the color. that must be equal to 35 students. Okay, now here basically what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to be collecting my like terms, meaning I'm going to say x plus x. So I will have x plus x, and then I have plus 5 plus 8 plus 4, which is equal to 35. What I just did was to just collect my like terms, just put them together. Okay, so now I can add x plus x will give me 2x, and 5 plus 4, I can say 5 plus 4 will give me a 9, and 9 plus 8 will give me a 17. Okay, so I'm adding 17 when I've added 5 to 8 and 8, and I've added 4 to that, and that must be equal to 35. Now I need to solve for x, so I'm looking what 17 is doing to 2x, and it is being added, so it simply means I must subtract 17 from both sides. So my original statement was 2x plus 17, so now I have to subtract 17 from both sides to calculate my value for x. Okay, so obviously here we know that a negative will cancel out with a positive, so we are left with 2x is equal to, and we know that 35 minus 17 will leave us with an 18. Okay, now I need to move the 2 because I need to isolate or leave x alone on this side, so I must say what is x doing to 2, or what is 2 doing to x. So 2 is multiplying x, so to move the 2 I must do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide through by 2. So what I do to one side I must do to the next. Now I need to just bring up this a bit so that I can have a little bit more space to work with. Okay, so here typically what I have left over here is really my 2 here will cancel that 2, so x is equal to 2 into itself goes once, and 2 into 18 goes 9. So the value of x is equal to 9, and we have solved for that because that's what they asked us here to find in part 2, to calculate the value of x. Well, for part 3, here they're asking, hence state the number of students who studied music only, and this value is only 1 mark, so it should be pretty easy. Now here, whenever they use the word hence in a sentence, it simply means then that we would pick up our answer, or this part of the question that we're answering now, the previous part, which is part 2, would have something to do with this part. That's simply what hence mean. Okay, now if you notice, they're saying hence state the number of students who study music only. Now this word only is a critical word, okay, because we're looking for that region. This would suggest then that we're looking for the region of the set that only in that region we had students studying music. If you notice, the subset here, music, it would include the intersection. It overlaps with art. So we have a 8 inside here in the middle. So if I'm speaking about the students who studied music only, therefore I would have to exclude this 8, because what this is saying is that I have 8 students here inside the box here. I have 8 students. These 8 students studied both music and art. So if I want the students who studied music only, then I couldn't choose this 8, because this 8 would represent persons who study both music and art, as I've said. So obviously it would be this region that I've shaded here already. Okay, this region here, the shaded region, anything that falls inside this region would represent the number of students who would have studied music only. So therefore, to answer part 3, we could say part 3, inside this region we have x plus 5. So we're saying x plus 5 students studied music only. But if you notice, we would have calculated the value of x down the bottom there. So we know that x is 9, so we're just substituting. So 9 plus 5, we know that 9 plus 5 would give us a 14. So therefore, since it's a worded problem, we can make our statement. Therefore, 14 students studied music. Okay, and that's it. Bye bye.